Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
Merry Christmas, and may you all be healthy and be there for our talk shows in the new year. Global TV Talk Show started as a result of the pandemic, shutting down our live conference business. Our last meetings were in New York and Washington, Feb 25, Feb 27. Both of them were sellouts. And Paul Johnston and I decided that we better learn how to do Zoom. I had no idea what to do. So we started playing around with this, and here we are today, about 70 broadcasts later. And Google Analytics, in their wisdom, or however they manipulate things, they say that our site has since mid-March 75,000 reader page views from 100 countries, about 70% US, 20% Europe, and the rest scattered around. And one of our key sponsors and believers and regular participants is the bridgeschool.net in Verano. So let's welcome Julie Taylor, who's the headmaster of the bridgeschool.net, and from Verano, Chase Eskelson. Thank you for being on Global TV, and thank you for sponsoring.
Ed, thanks so much for having us. We have truly enjoyed partnering with you through all the crazy that is 2020. Looking forward to continuing into 2021 and hoping for different results.
Yeah, that'll be great. And it just seems about online education and parents going a little nuts with their own problems and their own situation, and then having to homeschool and not really knowing what to do, and the kids not getting proper education apparently. So there's been a lot of talk just recently in the press, and today is December 17, 2020, that teachers should get the vaccination fast so they can open up the schools. What do you think of that?
Well, Julie has a full-time online school, so she never sees kids. Her teachers never see kids in person, but Verano does have multiple schools. One thing I think is really interesting about this, Ed, is it's been given to the states to decide how and when to provide those to academic staff as appropriate. And the interesting thing is each state is doing it differently. You know, I think across the board, you've seen first responders and healthcare workers are kind of that. But then some states, Utah, has decided that teachers and school staff are kind of in that second wave of availability that will happen in mid-January, whereas other states have kind of kicked the education down, you know, to the third and even fourth wave in some instances. So it's been very interesting to kind of track that and to see how that will affect. The good news is, and I don't think this gets enough play, the good news is there has been a lot of really great studies out that have shown that students, on average, don't get sick or as sick, right? They're not experiencing extreme symptoms, and students are not the super spreaders that, you know, we kind of thought they might be back in April and May. Most of Europe have locked down again, but schools are still in session. And in many instances, they don't require masks because the students are not spreading it like, you know, a lot of people think. It's unfortunate that in the U.S., a lot of the education people have seen these studies and have chosen to ignore them and continued in many states to continue shutting schools down. I don't think that's the right thing for kids. I think it's time to get kids back in buildings. It's time to get kids around each other from a social emotional. And, you know, we talked about that here, I think 2 weeks ago on the education broadcast with Dr. Natalie Forrest and Dr. Giovanni Metcalf. But the social emotional mental well-being of students, we can't forget about that. We can't just throw that out because it's less convenient or it's not politically acceptable to talk about it, because the truth of the matter is the science says students are not likely to get as sick, and students are not spreading it the way that we once thought that they might. So those are both great talking points, but getting very little play in our press today.
Yeah. So Julie, what is new and exciting for bridgeschool.net as we enter 2021?
Ed, I think that right now in education, at least in the United States, and we're seeing this globally too, that we're now halfway through the school year. We're nearing the end of the first semester. And I think a lot of parents were waiting to see how this school year would play out. They wanted to give their local school a chance to see, like, is this going to work for us? Personally, I see in my local school district historic failing rates. There's so many students that are failing classes, and these are high school students where the credits count for graduation. They have to have passing grades. And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of parents who at the beginning of the year were willing to give their local school the benefit of the doubt and let's see how this year plays out. Now that we are actually issuing credits, they're not willing to play and gamble on their students' education anymore, and they're wanting to be an advocate for their students and find what's going to work for them.
So how come kids are failing? Because they can't concentrate, they're distracted, or?
Ed, Chase and I have been in online education for many years, decades. And so one of the things that we have learned is that online and remote learning is its own set of foundations. You can't expect to do what you're doing in a bricks and mortar school and then just transfer it into Zoom and be able to have that same effect. Especially, when there's that communication barrier between students and the teachers. The students really need to have this foundational piece where they know the expectations. They may not feel comfortable going to the teacher in office hours, or they may not have the initiative. And so for us, having a digital curriculum that students can access at any time during the week, they don't have to have set schedules. They don't have to be on Zoom for 5 hours a day. It really helps break up that learning into something that's going to help students succeed.
Yeah. Chase?
Yeah, to add to that, one thing that we feel very passionately about is empowering our teachers with an intentionally designed tool. Having an intentionally designed product, curriculum, a digital curriculum, makes all the difference in the world, because you're seeing all these failing grades in the news headlines, and you're seeing all these failures in digital education, but that's not you can't compare apples to oranges, or, a VW bug to an orange. These are just not the same thing, because from a district perspective, the district is not providing the right toolkit or tool belt, if you will, to the teacher. What we saw happen is the world fell apart in March. And for April and May, we did the best that we could, speaking generally, right, about schools in general. Teachers worked so hard, and I think they deserve a ton of props for all the hard work that they did. The problem is, over the summer, we had, from March until August, nobody thought about it again. And we launched school this next fall without providing teachers the right tools to make this education thing work. And so we've asked teachers to do the impossible. We want you to come in and create your own curriculum, and to spend hours and hours and hours pulling bits and pieces from all these different sources and to cobble something together, versus walking in and saying, here is the tool belt, and here's the training on how to use these tools. And when your teachers are starting at such a far disadvantage and just pouring their lives into this thing, that's not going to be a good user experience for the students. You look at some of the solutions. We had a conversation the other day, Julie, where some of these parents and students and teachers have 15 different places they have to go log into every day.
Yeah.
But look, I'm a full-grown adult, and I've got several different logins. I can never keep these things straight. But we're asking a fourth grader to have 15 logins? Like, that's just unreasonable. And so, of course the kids are going to try a couple of passwords and say, well, it didn't work. I'm going to go play Xbox. What do we expect when we're setting them up for failure?
Yeah, and I think there's multiple layers to that too, Chase. So we think about, a lot of the teachers have been teaching for years and they have their curriculum that they like to teach. And in the bricks and mortar school, they're used to kind of walking around the classroom. They're able to write on the board. And when they transfer that to a Zoom room, and I've witnessed this, I've seen it, and some schools are doing this better than others, but it's very easy for students to check out. They can be present in these Zoom sessions, but unless the teachers understand how to engage the students virtually, the students will check out, and they can be, like Chase said, playing Xbox while they're, in their chemistry class. And then the other thing is with the districts, I feel like there's some competing priorities on how to spend their funds. I think different states have awarded, and the federal governments have awarded, depending on your country, your state, wherever you live, have been given different relief funds for COVID, right? But the schools are having to decide, are we going to use this on a digital curriculum that might be gone in a year, or are we going to use it on plexiglass screens for the classroom? And so at the district level, they're having to make these types of decisions on how to spend, their dollars. And I think what's happening is that, the students by large are suffering here. Mm-hmm.
Sure. So how do we communicate to powers that be? I guess just by doing things, just making things work right internally is the best message you can send. Bridge School, Verano, you guys are doing things right. You're smart, tuned in, you've got strong minds, you have Tilly, the other doctor that was on the other day with you. They're really bright people.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for introducing them to me, because otherwise I would never come in contact with that. So how do you view expansion, not only horizontally in different states, different programs adding to your current curriculum and setup, but like, for instance, the other day when we were on with some different people, opportunity in France, opportunity in India, opportunity in Mexico, just in Brazil, even, just to name a few.
Yeah, so it's interesting as we talk through that, that we internally have our target locations, and we've recently partnered with a couple of research teams out of the United Kingdom that are helping us find the right fit. So, I think just like some schools are picky when they pick a partner for curriculum or instructional design or assessment, we're pretty picky. We want to not find just anybody, but where's the right fit for us? And, part of that comes from knowing the areas that we think they will have the students that are the best fit for our hybrid or full-time online school. Part of it is, do they have a reliable internet? And then part of it also comes from another thing that, Ed, I don't think we've ever talked about on your show, but Verano, as a learning partner in education overall, we go in and we sit down. 3 weeks ago, sat down with school leaders from all over Arkansas, and then we had folks from Texas, Michigan, Indiana. They all it was a hybrid. So we had some in person, we had some on Zoom, and we just sat down and asked them questions. Where have your biggest frustrations been over the last 9 months? What problems do you still have that you're trying to solve? How can we get you in touch with the right people? And that allows us to kind of experience what other people are seeing and then help connect the dots or connect the people. And this is something that was really interesting that came out of that conversation. One of the largest districts in the state of Texas sent out a survey. the results came back that 28% of all students in their district want to have a full-time online or hybrid option after COVID goes away. 28%, a third almost of their students want some form of a digital education moving forward. And 2019 and before, they didn't have it. I mean, they just flat out did. They only had in-person traditional school options. So I think that this has changed the philosophy that districts and charters and private schools have. And so for us, it's going in and finding those right partners that we can help solve their problems, whether that's through the Bridge School, and we've talked about that a lot, partnering with some international organizations or companies or other international schools, or solving, the same problems, but here in the United States.
So with 1/3 responding to a new idea, without any marketing, pre-marketing, if you will, to set the stage for a response, that is a really strong showing. And as a marketer, PR guy, that means that with more prep, prep the ground before the assault kind of thing, with messaging or whatever, examples, just showing your commercial, showing the ballerina, lace up shoes, and that conversation that you so eloquently do, Julie, that's a beautiful thing. And boy, I'm a guy and I never watch any ballet, but I could tell you that the ladies who have been on our show, they are looking at that and drinking it in. Okay, not only is it beautiful, but the message is really good and straightforward, authentic.
Yeah.
So I wish you well. I think that would be great. And frankly, I'd like to welcome back on the show your people like Strong Minds and Tilly. Being a parent advocate and an education advocate, that, for me as an outsider, that's a new idea. That's a great idea of reaching out as a vehicle for communicating with parents and school officials.
Well, Ed, looking at education holistically, I think the problem that we've seen over the last 50 years is that really there are two voices that continually get heard and everyone else gets pushed out to the side. You get the teacher and the district/administrator. Those are the only two voices being heard. And nobody's asking questions of students. Nobody's asking questions of the parents. They just get completely pushed to the side. And there's a big push right now, and who a great person to have on if we do another session around this kind of a thing would be Corey DeAngelis. This guy is just all over the place on social media. He's on the news all the time. He's a good friend of mine. And he has just been pushing so hard is, how come we're not listening to parents? How come we're not listening to students? How come we're not listening to taxpayers who are funding all this stuff? We can't just have special interest groups and teachers unions driving the narrative for education moving forward. There's a lot of voices, and we have to raise all those voices up to an equal place. And he makes some very compelling points.
I would welcome a program, containing him. That would be a great thing that we could push out. Perfect.
I will definitely reach out to him, and we'll see if we can schedule something in January.
Yep. Okay. And so, just so you know, we'll be broadcasting not every day, but throughout the holiday period. But we certainly will be gangbusters into the new year. So, tell me, Julie, what is your take on which classes, which topics within the Bridge School are the most popular?
Yeah, we have different students, right? We have all of our courses are delivered in English. So even if we have students around the globe, it is delivered in English. We do offer foreign languages, but students are receiving a US-based diploma when they attend our school. So when they graduate 12th grade, they're getting a US-based diploma that is recognized. We have students that have gone on to US colleges and international colleges alike. But we have a lot of the honors classes. So we have a variety of students. We have many students who are in the honors and higher level courses, and then we have students who are looking to have some credit recovery courses and make up credits that they may be deficient in order to graduate. One of the really cool things, though, that I started this year, we were able to start it. We have a partner school in Honduras. We've talked about this before, where the students are able to get a dual diploma in both a Honduras diploma and a US-based diploma when they graduate. And this year, I worked with the school leaders that are at the site in Honduras, and they partnered up with a local marine biologist. And so now the students that are there are able to take our marine science course that we offer and then pair it with some hands-on marine science that is on the island where they live in Roatan. And so they can see where their own social responsibility helps the reef live and all the fish, and it allows that the marine life to just flourish. And so that's a really cool partnership that we have there.
So Joanna and I are members of the Natural History Museum in San Diego and also Science Center, and we have gone when it was open. We've gone to each of those museums and sit in the IMAX. They have IMAX theaters, and they have these beautiful films, videos, I guess, narrated, huge screen about the turtles, and the underwater reefs around Cuba. And who would ever know any of that stuff? Okay, and so it was really fascinating, gripping. And then there was another show. I can't remember the name of it. But in terms of education and appealing to kids and bringing families together, it's all about dogs, trained safety dogs, like, the St. Bernards in the Swiss Alps, where they go and find skiers under the snow, in avalanches. These dogs are trained for water rescue and high wire act, daredevil stuff. The dogs are trained to go and help find, pull people out of danger. Rescue dogs. God, so that kind of visual and learning through video mixed in with opening people's minds, I guess, right? Strong minds, open minds. That could be a whole new thing.
We talked. Sorry, Julia. I'll go real quick and then I'll pass it back to you. One of the things that we've talked about a lot, Ed, is yes, our schools are digital heavy, especially like the Bridge School. It's full-time online, but we are so interested and invested in getting kids to get their fingers dirty. It's not about sitting behind a computer for 8 hours. That's terrible for kids. That's absolutely horrible for kids. So how do we get them the right curriculum and serve it up appropriately, but then create either project-based learning or hands-on learning, partnerships that are local to that area so that kids can come together in person, get their fingers wet in the ocean and touch different things and experience the world around them. And think about how much deeper that learning impacts them versus, reading text on a textbook or reading text on some lame online course. Like, that's not how good online courses are built. It's got to be interactive. It's got to be pushing it back into real life. Sorry, Julie, back to you.
I was just going to say, if I had to rely on my dog to save me underwater, I'd be in trouble because she doesn't even go outside when it rains.
Just a house dog.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
So Ed, I have a question for you. So, you know what, we have been on several shows here now, and I feel like you've gotten a really good idea, maybe that you hadn't experienced online education before. What are some of the biggest points that are, now a takeaway for you that would help us understand, what helps people understand that we are a viable option?
Parent testimonials, I think, and maybe a kid testimonial. Not staged, although prepared. that kind of a session, say outside of within an hour program, you can do a lot if you schedule it right. It could be only 10 minutes. And it could be done with just a video. It doesn't have to be live. Part of an interview where you do some interviews with some parents. Without making it seem like it's phony and self-promotional, somehow authentic. Just as an example, a lifestyle approach to, okay, what really goes on in the house, and how much bandwidth does this online education require, and how do people afford it? Or, does it add to the cost of the Verizon bill or what?
Let me ask another follow-up question. Now that we've decided we're going to interview Edwin Cohen for a few minutes, what are some things, what are some takeaways that you've heard us talk about? And you said, man, I never knew that about online or digital education before. If there's someone listening and they've, have never heard of us, what's something that you've learned over the last 6 months from us?
Well, that is legitimate. Number one, again, I'm just an outsider, but so it's all new to me. Or you think of going to the University of Phoenix or some other popular, organization that actually has helped people get educated. And, who would have thought, I sat in a classroom listening live to boring professors. And I also sat in another classroom with absolute stimulant, because the professor and the topic were a perfect match, almost like Julie, you in teaching, you're just a natural, and others are not natural. So what I've learned from this through you guys is that it's authentic and it's diverse, and I've had no issue, no problem at all introducing you to people like Nana from Finland with the photo idea, or these other people from Irvine who, the professor of music played the grand piano on our show about music therapy, okay, and how people can relax. And then Dr. Natalie in her shtick, it's not science, it's real. And that's the science of it. And so what you guys are doing is, and I'm really honored to be able to help introduce this, never mind the business side of all this, but the idea of it's a solution. And, we've never talked about costs. That's your business, not mine. But, the cost to join your school. But it needs to be told that it's normal, it's not weird, and it's real, and entirely seemingly flexible for the family and the student. And this is all new stuff for me, and I'm sure for a lot of our audience, not only in California and Texas, but around the world.
Yeah, well, we have had so much fun. I was just looking through some of the shows that we've done together over the last however many months it's been.
Hopefully they've gotten better.
Yeah. One of the first shows that we ever did specific to education was how to set up a good home school setup. We talk a lot about the fact that we don't think of ourselves as homeschool. We're schooling from home because we come with teachers and curriculum and tools and all the stuff that you need versus, a parent sourcing all of those pieces and the parent becoming the overseer. In our situation, the parent is a partner with the school to get the education done.
Good point.
But we talked heavily about, spending that time both from a school, from a business perspective, right? I work from home. I've got my desk and my office set up, and talked about having that weekly time to review. whether that's 15 minutes Sunday night or the first 15 minutes Monday morning, just to really plan your week out and manage what will my week, what are the most important things and where do I stick them in first? And then the rest of the week kind of is juggled from there. And then having that review time, Thursday night, Friday at some point, to review, okay, what got accomplished and what still needs to work. Like, this is not just for students. This is great points for us, as we kind of do our business and school education thing as well. Julie, maybe you can take a second and just kind of very briefly talk about some of the specific space setups. I know we've talked about this frequently. You train our teachers just like we set it up and orient our students appropriately as well for setting up that physical space.
Yeah, I think that definitely comes into play is having a spot where, students can be successful. And this is for remote workers or for students. And it's a place where, you're not going to be interrupted. You're not laying down in bed, a former company that I worked with did a study where students were actually doing work. They had worked with the families. They got these releases so that they could turn on the webcam when the students were doing these assessments. And it was scary what they were seeing. They were seeing students laying in bed while they were doing it with the laptop propped on a pillow, or some students were in the car, or it was just in very random places. And when you're not focused on the task at hand, you're not going to be able to produce your best or even learn at your best. And so having that dedicated space where you're not going to get interrupted, that hopefully you won't be kicked offline, and being able to schedule out your week to make sure that you are not being pulled in so many different directions, and taking breaks to go outside for a little bit, or even scheduling in if you need to do, a few things around the house, scheduling that into your day so you're not feeling like your work or your school bleeds into your evening as well.
And now a word from our co-sponsors. Our programs wouldn't happen without the wonderful support of our advertisers. Here they are.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services, Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And byairs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind, with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Hi, my name is Christine. I'm a nurse from the Philippines, and I got to know IAS through Worldwide Health Staff Solutions. And I want to thank IAS, especially to Matthew, for helping me get my car stress-free, headache-free. And so I just want to show you the car that I got. So it's a RAV4 XLE 2020.
As an expat moving to the USA, relocating is exciting, but it can also be stressful. Getting a car, truck, or SUV for personal transportation is usually a high priority. That's where International Auto Source comes in. We make getting the vehicle you want for your work assignment or academic program easy, so you're ready to drive when you arrive. Our product specialists have helped over 50,000 expatriates with their personal transportation needs, making us the largest international auto retailer in the world. International Auto Source gives you flexible payment options to buy, lease, or rent a vehicle from the world's leading auto brands, arrange financing on a purchase or lease without a U.S. credit history, social security number, or driving record, get full insurance coverage, and get approved easily through our low-rate factory-backed financing programs. And because we're an authorized distributor of the world's leading automotive brands, our no-haggle prices are competitive, and the buying experience is hassle-free. We'll even guarantee your new vehicle will be ready the day you arrive. With over 20 years of experience in the global community, we are the vehicle experts for expats. We are International Auto Source.
Okay, so we're back here. Let's talk about video and training. Also, if I may ask, and this is not rehearsed, you people out there who are concerned about all this, people of color, of different nationality, religion, and all that, do you have representation of different people on your faculty? And also, another question that occurred to me is learning disabilities, kids with some kind of a disability. Do you have a special class or something that addresses the need for people with a disability?
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Chase. I see you jumping in. Go ahead.
Yeah, and we've been on several shows together where we've talked about diversity and inclusion. The thing that I think doesn't get a lot of play are a lot of academic research studies out there that show that if students have someone that has a similar background to them as a teacher, they see better long-term academic success. And so we think that's really an important part of this the entire education thing, if you will, is making sure that kids are comfortable, they're prepared, they're ready to learn, and they're ready to learn with teachers that are going to do the absolute best job possible for their academic success.
And,
so to
and
answer
the
your
parent,
question, yeah.
and the parents are comfortable with being involved because, let's say a Hispanic or a Black or an Asian or whatever, anybody, they have to feel comfortable that their kid is not going to be sold a bill of goods, that it's really going to be an authentic education.
Right. Well, from the Verano perspective, one of the things I think we've touched on it here and there over the last few months, but one of the things that we have at our core value is the school has to be built specifically for the student demographics that it will serve. So, for instance, we have a lot of staff in Arizona. And I could easily have said, okay, we're going to pick somebody up from Arizona, start this new school in Ohio, and drop someone from Arizona to be the school leader in Ohio. But the problem is those schools are completely different. And we've talked a lot about the fact that we build the school format, the school day, the school, everything around the school for the student demographics, but we've never talked about the staff piece. And we can't just pick someone up from one socioeconomic status and one regionally based person and drop them into a different school in Ohio. In Ohio, it's an inner city school. They have different challenges and different opportunities than our school in Arizona has. And so it was very important to us to find local leaders and to find local staff members who know the community. They know the struggles and the opportunities that they have, and they know how to breathe hope into that community. And so we purposely didn't pick someone up from one school and drop them in another. We said we're going to build a school that is going to solve this community's problem and to be a partner in the community. And so that's exactly how we've built each one of our schools from the ground up.
So when I was a young man, 12, 10, 12, 13, even maybe a little younger, I stuttered. I had a distinct problem, and that impacted my ability to speak in class. I couldn't get words out, and it definitely impacted my head, that's for sure. And all the cute girls didn't want to talk to me, but so I withdrew, and it was a big problem with grades and personal, and boy, I hated school, I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. And I actually hated myself too. I had some issues. Mm-hmm. In high school, I think it was in my first year, 9th grade, the administration of the high school said, "Hey, Ed, you test well, but we got to fix this problem. Do you want to fix it? Yes or no?" So the football coach for the high school team, big guy, wiffle cut, and I was not any of that. And he says, "Do you like baseball?" So I said, "Yeah, I love the Boston Red Sox. I grew up in a suburb of Boston." And so he said, let's look at the Boston Globe newspaper and read the sports page together. Start reading it. And I didn't stutter. And some difficulty with PR and, difficult consonant combinations like that. And so instead of study period, I went into the remedial room down the hall. And this wasn't overnight, but we solved the problem. And then he assigned me physical exercise, that he gives to the kids playing football. And I was not a football player. I was a track runner. And breathing and understanding and looking at TV shows and watching how people speak, because video didn't exist there. It was all 8mm movies or whatever. And then reading certain books like Babe Ruth, these books, sports books, because sports was easy rather than some English teacher telling me that I ought to read Wuthering Heights or something, yuck. So sports books, there's literature. And so eventually solved the stuttering problem. And to this day, I am working on speaking better and using this as my therapy, frankly.
Yeah.
And so, to what extent are you dealing with, problem kids like me, who are your students? Do you have a remedial training room?
Well, I wouldn't say problem. I wouldn't say problem kids, Ed, but
Thank you.
I know what you mean. I think that what is very important to know is that every student is unique and every student has strengths and every student has areas that they struggle in. And so it's so important. And we know as an online school that we are not the best option for every student, but we know that there are some students that we are a great fit for. And so we want to make sure that the students are choosing an option, or the parents are choosing an option that allows the best fit for their students. Within our bridge school, we have a number of students, just off the top of my head, that I know of that have dyslexia. And I spoke with a parent over the summer before she chose the bridge school. And I had a number of conversations with her because she was very anxious about how her student would be able to have this digital curriculum and be able to succeed. And so we talked about how the teachers would be able to work with the student. We have screen readers so that the student can hear what is on the screen as long as they're reading through it. So they hear it and they're reading along with what they're hearing. And then our teachers are able to work with the student to maybe reword some of the questions or reduce the number of questions for that student. And that student right now is succeeding. He's getting A's in all of his classes right now. And, my teachers are telling me, I would never know that he was dyslexic because, he's doing so well. But the mom really took the effort into researching not only us, but several different schools to make sure that her student who had unique needs, his needs were going to be met.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Chase?
I think that's an interesting point too, Julie, is again, it's a partnership, right? The parent advocating for their student, the school providing the right options. And when those two things happen simultaneously for the best interest of the student will succeed. Mm-hmm. But if one of the two of those things kind of falls off, it's a toss-up. I mean, unfortunately, that's where many of our students around the nation and around the world are falling apart, is because it's that partnership, especially during 2020 when so many students are working from home with not intentionally designed products and so many different logins and hours and hours and hours behind a computer on Zoom. Like, all these things are not supporting the student right. And when those two things, the parent advocating and the school providing the right tools for that student, we see these students go so far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting stuff. So, we've had conversations prior about art, photo art, what does this picture mean to you? And then music therapy. And what do you think of those things mixed in with your school day?
We actually, myself, Julie, another one of our school leaders from Arizona, sat down with Nana a couple of weeks ago. And the idea that let me back up. One of the things that educators talk a lot about is DOK, depth of knowledge. And how do we take what is very simplistic and take that student to a deeper level of understanding, and how using photos, using videos, using things that engage their mind versus just white paper with black text. How do we leverage those things as the tools that they are to make that student think deeper about a problem and understand the background and understand what might happen next and understand the entire process in a new light? Like, that's really the goal, is to get students to think more and think deeper. And photo art is a fantastic way to do just that.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you very much for being our guests, and we could go on and on, I think, without a script here. This is cool.
Zero script today. I think we did just fine.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.